Serious Native Americans of Reddit, what's something you want people to know about modern Native Americans? How large the families can get. In Native American culture, your aunts would be considered your mothers, same thing on the male side, and your cousins would be your siblings. Because of this, I have 6 grandmas. It's just an interesting fact I think that doesn't seem to be commonly known. On a darker note, how high the suicide rates are. That a lot of the problems that are seen are a result of the residential schools. I have 5 uncles and 6 aunties, and my mom, who is in the middle, was one of the first to not be taken to a residential school. A few of my uncles, some of the strongest people I know, weep when they recount what their experience at that school was like. My grandfather lied about his age to get into the army at 16 during WW2 to get out of going to that school. He would rather go to the battlegrounds of Europe before going back to that place. My grandmother on my other side of the family cannot speak her native language without feeling sick to her stomach, because whenever she did at residential school, she had her mouth washed out with soap and was beaten. I don't have many other stories, as it was always a touchy subject to ask about. That not all First Nations have their education paid for by the government. My ma worked 3 jobs to pay her way through a private university, and she worked hard to help me with mine. Some people just think it's cool to undermine one's education by flippantly assuming the government pays for all First Nations. When I finished my flight training, I remember being so hurt by people. Instead of a quick congratulations, people were quick to judge me because they assumed the government footed the bill for the expensive training. Meanwhile, I was hustling my ass off, getting paid a shitty salary, and sending over half my paycheck to my ma to pay her back for her generous loan. I don't care how you paid for your education, but we all have different stories. So think first before putting everyone into one category and pissing on another's achievements and hard work. This one hates being called a Native American. Anyone born here is a Native American. I prefer the classic American Indian or Aboriginal American. I prefer American Indian as well, but typically use Native in conversation, since that seems to be what most people I associate with prefer. My mom always just said Indian, so being called Indian doesn't bother me, like it does some folks my age, 38, and younger. We don't all go to POWs, and your jokes are usually never funny, and believe it or not, we don't want to talk about how your grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee. Edit. I'd like to elaborate that I in no way think Cherokee are inferior. It was simply an example of a typical conversation topic that happens quite often. I'm Native American. I'm in my mid-20s, and I've been drug and alcohol-free my entire life. 70% of my family members are alcoholics, pillheads, or meth heads. The meth problem on the reservation has gotten worse. 5 years ago I barely heard about it, now it's everywhere. Young people, 18 to 35, are the biggest users of it. Anyone older than that is pretty much sticking to alcohol. So that generation will probably die before the grandparents. Girls have kids young, like 15 to 18 for their first kid, so there's lots of grandmas in their early 30s. There's usually a casino, gas station, or dollar store to work at, if you're not educated enough to work at the tribal building, or CPS or wherever, but the problem with that is natives don't want to keep jobs. They want to drink every night, do drugs, show up late, call in, and lose their jobs. The casino here, where I work, sees workers come and go at a rapid pace, for the smaller jobs anyway. White people have the bigger money making jobs, and they are good at showing up, and they love the great benefits our casino offers. Life on the reservation sucks. Rape and drug abuse is rampant in our community, and it is seemingly unstoppable. People use what happened to our ancestors as an excuse for this behavior. And that they wouldn't be alcoholic drug addicts if it wasn't for the white man, but that is just their excuse for their behavior. Our tribal leadership is either too corrupt to help us, or too ineffective to help us. If we get a monthly check, it doesn't come from state taxes. In my case, it's a percentage of the casino's monthly profit. The casino was funded by a federal loan that was paid back in full. For mine it's because of an oil pipeline going through our land. The amount varies, but it's a pretty decent chunk of change and is split between members of my family. In a generation or two it should consolidate into one branch, then into one child, and they will be rolling in some pretty decent money. The amount of embezzling done by chief and council on reserve is sickening, and I wish someone would do something about it. I wish I could. But I'm just one person. You want to know a little something about modern Native Americans? Most of the older generation are extremely selfish. They say they want to help the youth, but when the time comes, all they care about is money and how it will benefit themselves. It honestly seems like they don't care. I'm not saying all Native Americans are like this, but where I come from it sure feels like it.